What's up, guys? Welcome to Lawsplaining the Interwebs. I am your host, Nick Rekieta. I own my own law firm in central Minnesota. That is Rekieta Law. If you're ever in trouble in Minnesota, please look me up and we'll help you out. So today I'm coming to you with a quick video to discuss a little bit of inside baseball for lawyers. Not really. It's not super inside baseball, but it's not the stuff you normally see because this is all stuff that happens behind the curtains. So if you're not familiar with my channel, typically I will take a public lawsuit and break it down sort of line by line. We'll really go through and flesh out the issues very in depth. But I will also do brief legal breakdowns of interesting other topics. And today there's a popular YouTuber. I mean, this didn't happen today, but this is a couple days ago. The popular YouTuber has had some legal news. Now, a long time ago, about 5-6 months ago, Fader did sort of a journalistic hit piece on Anthony Fantano, otherwise known as TheNeedleDrop. He's a popular YouTube music reviewer and music critic, but he also had a meme review channel, which actually predates his NeedleDrop channel, where he would go on and, make various posts talking about memes, making fun of music artists, what have you. So about 6 months ago, the Fader did they did sort of a hit piece on him, and that caused this. He had a speaking event tour that was going to happen. It was canceled, as this squawker.org article politely points out. It was over thought crime, so you can guess what their opinion on the Fader article was. But yeah, basically, they are, he had his channel. Fader did their piece on it. And then he has a speaking event, or all of his speaking events canceled on his tour due to the public backlash he received over the Fader article. Not actually he received, but the venues and his booking agent is what he discusses in a video, which I will link in the description, by the way, his 2 videos discussing these events, and you should definitely watch them. They're informative, and I'm going to rely on you watching them for his specific defenses of the claims, because I'm not really interested in that. I'm interested in what happened later. So once his speaking events are canceled, something very important occurs. This is the point where something like defamation becomes actionable, because defamation outside of damage isn't actionable in the courts. You can't just walk around defaming people. In some instances, it can become a crime, but from a civil liability perspective, you need damage for the courts to be able to fix the damage that's done. Like if I walk around making fun of some person and it doesn't actually affect or impact them, those may be defamatory statements in the context of being a false statement of fact that is intended to cause some harm to them. But if they don't actually cause any harm, the court can't fix what I've done because there's nothing to fix. You can't just increase. The court is there to repair things. So once he has his speaking events canceled, suddenly those defamation claims become actionable. And again, if you go watch his video, he will break down the specifics of what is untrue in the article, and I highly recommend you do that. But as you can see, what happened very recently, so those 2 things were a while back. What happened very recently is the article has been removed by the Fader. This is what the link shows now. Just some ads. Good job, Fader. But it does not actually have what the article anymore. So what likely happened, and this is where this video comes in, let's do a little theory craft. So what likely happened is the Fader does the hit piece on Fantano. Fantano does his response on YouTube, deletes the meme channel to try and mitigate some damage, but it doesn't end up working. His speaking events get canceled, and at that point, that is when most people, the legal wheels start to get greased. They either contact a lawyer or they start talking to people, and people say, hey, you know what? Maybe you need to contact a lawyer about this because that's not okay. So at that point, he contacts a lawyer, maybe several lawyers, discusses the case with them, and then one of them is sufficient, in his opinion, to take up the task. And what they would probably do, and I do not have a copy of any of these documents, this is pure speculation, and this is kind of the stuff that lawyers do pretty regularly, that is not courtroom stuff. And most of our work, for most lawyers, is not courtroom stuff. There are some people who do nothing but litigate, and that is great for them, but most lawyers spend most of their time outside of court. What his lawyers would do is get together with him, and they would go through the article, and they would break down all the specific claims where he says that's not true or that's a lie. They would find the most powerful ones, and they would draft a cease and desist letter to Fader. And that cease and desist letter says something along the lines of, listen, we're this law firm. We represent Anthony Fantano. You recently, on whatever date, published a article about it on the Fader. And there were material misstatements of fact in that article as follows. Bing, 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 bing. They'll lay them out very succinctly. They'll say these defamatory statements led to direct damage to my client in the form of him having to cancel his speaking tour due to a negative backlash as a direct result of those statements. Now, we demand that you remove the article, and we demand that you pay our client X amount of dollars. At that point, Fader's legal team will read that letter. They will, discuss it with whoever is a decision maker at Fader, and they'll talk about the ramifications, and then they will send some sort of response, and then the attorneys will go back and forth until they come to some sort of agreement that's acceptable to Fader and Fantano. Do not know the details of that agreement. What we do know is that one of those details is that the article must be removed. So Fader deleting the article is part of it. And we know that because both Fantano and Fader have said so here. In a brief phone conversation with Spin about the deletion of the article, Fantano said only that the claims had been settled, and a spokesperson for the Fader later affirmed that the characterization to Spin, writing in an email, the claims were settled. So we know that the claims the claims are settled. So what that settlement involves the removal of the article. We don't know what else there is, but I would wager there's some money here. And the reason being, again, if you watch Fantano's video, he will talk about specific misrepresentations of fact. And those misrepresentations of fact directly cause the harm. So when you have someone like Fantano, he's arguably a public figure. He has over 1 million subscribers on YouTube. That's quite a lot, and probably puts him in the public figure category. And he is a matter of public concern as far as the music industry goes, and that's within Fader's sort of realm. So he has the highest bar possible for to prove defamation. He has the hardest case. Basically, they have to take a material statement of fact that is false and intended to cause harm. So it has to be knowingly false and knowingly intended to cause harm to Fantano. Now, part of the reason that this starts to become apparent is because the Fader early on has a line in the lawsuit, or line in the, not in the lawsuit, in the article. And it's right here. And this is probably the most important line in the piece, is that while the needle drop covers similar beats as sites like the Fader and Pitchfork, it exists in a totally different context, the surprisingly conservative world of YouTube. Right here, the author of the article knows that they are actually in competition with Fantano. Now, they try to ignore it down here when they say these are Fantano's true colleagues, referring to PewDiePie and Paul Joseph Watson in competition, not the lefty bloggers who have traditionally covered music, and he has adapted to their world awkwardly. So they're immediately, this is like one of the early paragraphs in the article, And they're laying out that Fantano is alt-right. He associates with these types of guys, and they're his true competition. But that's not true. His true competition would be people in a similar industry, which would include Fader and Pitchfork. So in doing this, we get a hint that this person should know that their statements are likely to cause him harm in the realm in which he and they operate. It looks like a competitive bit, and it almost looks like a bit of assassination of a competitor. And when I say almost, it definitely does, because they appear to take a lot of things out of context, and they appear to actually make specific misrepresentations of fact about him. And again, I'll let him go through those for you if you're interested in watching them. But long story short, this is how many cases get resolved. And it can take a few days. It can take months, kind of depending on the parties and where negotiations go. But basically, something happens. It becomes actionable. Someone like Fantano contacts an attorney. They put together a very basic, very short letter, cease and desist. They send that letter over to the offending party. In this case, that would be the Fader. And they say, hey, you got to remove that article, and you got to compensate my client because they had significant losses. And if you don't, we'll see you in court, and we're going to win because this and this and this. And if you contact me, if you want to figure this out. Then Fader would obviously send back some sort of thing, and they hash out some sort of agreement. We'll never know what that agreement is, likely, because those agreements tend to come with non-disclosure agreements about the terms of them. The only thing you can typically say is that a settlement exists, and as we know, both sides have acknowledged the existence of a settlement. So, hope that helps you guys with a little piece of inside baseball for lawyering on on kind of a popular YouTuber and a music publication, and how these disputes are often resolved. Most of the time we don't have people resolving their stuff in court. It usually starts this way. One, because it's much cheaper and more efficient to do it this way. If you can get buy-in from the other party, you can get both parties on board. You can tailor a result that is the most effective for both parties, and you can kind of avoid the ugliness of court, where a whole bunch of stuff will come out that you may or may not want, that you likely don't want public. So I hope this kind of helps you guys get a little glimpse into that world of lawyering. If you like this type of video, check me out on patreon.com/lawsplaining, as you can see in the top left of your screen. Subscribe to the channel, and let me know in the comments what you think. If you want to see more content like this, let me know. If there are other artists or legal disputes that you'd like me to talk about, please let me know, and I'm happy to do that. Also, check out the other videos for sort of more in-depth explanations on some things. Anyway, thanks for watching tonight. I really appreciate it. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments, and have a good night. Peace.